Thanks, Mo, for having us today. I know it's been a while, like you said, since we've been sharing some things. So just for those of you that don't know, we're in our 27th year. We were started by 6 women at IACP that saw the need for a group to be active, to elevate and celebrate the voices of women in law enforcement. And our motto is to lead, inspire, mentor. We have many programs going on now to help in that effort. So before I delve into all of that, I do know that Shannon was able to join on. So I just want to give her a moment to come on and introduce herself, and then we'll get to her part of the presentation later.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chief Shannon Trump. I am the current past president on the executive board for NAWLEE. I'm one of those people that got involved with NAWLEE growing up in an agency in the Midwest. I'm retired from the Noblesville Police Department after 21 years, a municipal agency outside of Indianapolis. And looking around as I came up in my career, I didn't have a lot of mentors. So I know we've talked about that quite a bit. So that was my passion. That was my entrance into NAWLEE. It's still something I'm incredibly passionate about. We're going to talk about our mentoring program today, but I'm lucky enough that a couple months ago, I accepted a chief of police position. I'm with the IU Health Department of Public Safety in downtown Indianapolis. So that's a little bit about me. And I know we have a little bit of a slideshow for you today. So thank you for having us today.
And for those of you that don't know my background, 36 years in the profession, both sworn and civilian. And I love that Deb's on the call because I say this often, that Deb and I actually started our careers in the same police agency. And so, take from that what you may, that 2 women from the same agency now are in spaces of leading women's organizations. So I just love it. And she and I had the chance to spend the day together a couple of weeks ago, which was excellent, sharing ideas and strategies. So I was sworn in rural Massachusetts, and then in the mid 90s, I started consulting on a national level and stayed sworn until 2002. But the bulk of my career has been in the consulting field in a variety of different ways. And I joined NAWLEE many years ago, but became the executive director in late summer of 2018. So as NAWLEE has progressed, one of the things that we're trying to do is change with the times. And so as we've grown and developed, at our board retreat last winter, right before the holidays, we decided to start changing a little bit of how NAWLEE operates. So instead of just being NAWLEE in one group, because of the diversity that we have, we are breaking up into sections so that there's a campus section, there's a civilian professional staff section, a federal section, an international section, municipal, state, and then tribal, and then our special organizations. Chief Paradis and Chief Trump are in those special organizations, emerging fields, hospital police, school police, road police. And we're doing that so that we can start to get more input on the training that we do to make sure that it's targeting the depth of experiences that everybody has. And we're so varied now with the agencies that are represented. And then we are creating areas of practice. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our research, so I won't delve into that so much, but there's very specific areas that we've had the opportunity to jump on into, and we're making those areas of practice for us. And we'll be unveiling it much more at our April conference. But the other thing that we're doing is we had some listening sessions in the fall, trying to find out what the state and regional associations need in terms of assistance from the national organization. There will be the opportunity for folks to join us as affiliates or as chapters, and then our ability to help where there's no associations, grow those associations without them having to create their own EIN numbers. There's a process through the federal government that they can borrow ours basically as a chapter, saves funding and time. The other thing that we're trying to do very actively is with our national sponsors, work with them to sponsor events at the regional level. So I'm going to tell you what we've got going on for Women's History Month. So I'll be joining Mo down in Miami, which will be great to get out of this Boston cold weather, even though it will be to see the inside of the hotel next week in Miami for the public safety partnership piece of the crime fighters in Miami. And then at the end of the week, we'll be speaking at the Officer Safety and Wellness for IACP conference on mentoring. And then I leave for that. We have the opportunity to address the audience at the World Police Summit, then come home and we have the RTI conference. We are partnering with them on some grants. And so that's all on recruitment and retention. I leave there to go to the event down at University of Mississippi Medical Center. Chief Paradis is hosting the recruitment and retention. There'll be the 30 by 30 section that Mo mentioned, and a section on mentoring and a section on leadership. And then we're off to Mesa. There'll be a day-long event with a leadership panel in the morning and then mentoring in the afternoon. On that same day, Tanzania Carter is holding an event in the San Francisco Bay Area that we're sponsoring for her for 250 people from the area, which will be wonderful. We have a female-only fitness event that's going on. It's hosted by FirstNet, but NAWLEE will be there on the ground evaluating that to see how we can partner on those particular events in the future. We'll also have Gina Hawkins on the 23rd will be at the Pentagon for an event for Women's History Month. I'm sure that there's something that I've forgotten in that list, but we're really excited about the activities. And in addition to those, we'll be at about 36 events so far this year. The list will certainly grow. Last year, we were able to go to 25 different events, and at each of those events, we're providing content on gender in the workplace, on recruitment and retention, and always asking folks to join 30 by 30. We had the opportunity to have some sessions that were just on 30 by 30 at some conferences. Dr. Nikki came and did some, and just really trying to get as many organizations possible to come forward and join 30 by 30. So those are some of the activities that we have ongoing in terms of events. Let's advance the slide here. So I want to offer you some resources. So one of the things that we've been really fortunate is to become involved in some sort of groundbreaking efforts. So the Collaborative Reform Technical Assistance Center is funded by the COPS office. It's administered by IACP, and we're one of the partner organizations. And what we bring to the field is free training and technical assistance that any agency can avail themselves of. And it really just takes a phone call. You'll call, you'll get someone to write up your notes. Then we do what's called an intake call. Every Thursday, we meet and we talk about the needs of agencies from across the country. The work plan is then developed from the discussions that we have with the agency. The agency approves the work plan, and then subject matter experts either come to you, help you remotely, or you do a peer exchange. And many of those requests are on recruitment, hiring, and retention. So whenever we can, we make sure that those agencies are informed of what's happening in the field, and certainly making sure that 30 by 30 is noted when there is something that is on recruitment and hiring and retention, so that they can make sure that that's always on the forefront of everybody's mind. So as many times as we can get the message out there, we do. The next program is Elevate Blue, and that's funded by BJA. Develop the courses that are out there. While all of them are applicable, of course, we're very excited that one of them is on recruitment, hiring, training, and retention. And that will be free to anyone to take online and start watching some of that late in Q1, which towards the end of March, in early Q2. And that, again, is just a resource that folks can have. And I did make sure that 30 by 30 was included as a resource for agencies to use in their activities. Of course, 30 by 30, and I've said a little bit about that. Obviously, Mo said we're a founding partner with them. And one of the things that is so great about this, it goes back to when Mo and Yvonne had the idea in 2018 and brought everybody together. And I tell everybody I wish I had Mo's couch, because she said she found the money in the couch cushions. We all need to have one of those couches, but it really started the ability for NAWLEE to take what came out of that summit in 2018 and think about some of the things that were expressed. And because of that, we were able to start a research agenda. And this was while 30 by 30 was just in the brain trust of Mo and Maureen, but we were able to start some of that research on gender in the workplace and start laying down some of the foundations for the recruitment and retention. So we're glad to be able to continue to spread that message, add on to the work that is, Mo's team is doing with the pledge and with collecting data, but making sure that all of that information, as much as we can, anytime we can get the platform, goes out in front of folks. And we're really excited next year that our booths are going to be beside each other at IACP instead of running back and forth and sending folks around the corner to each of us. So I think that's going to be great so that people can have one-stop shop about women in the field. So I mentioned some of the research. We are sub-grantees on these projects. So with RTI, they also partner with National Policing Institute. IAWP is part of the initial part of that project as well. The first part was to do some focus groups for women that were in the field. That's complete. The next part of that was to do research with those that might be coming into the field. And RTI developed some messaging around that. Many of you do know Dr. Jen Rainier. She's the lead person. And now it's the phase of some technical assistance around the messaging for women. That is the first one that NAWLEE really got involved on with a partner. And so that partnership has extended. So the recruitment of women in policing is an NIJ funded project. And the next one is career pathways and recruitment strategies. That's funded by BJA. We'll be working very closely with the historically Black colleges and universities as part of that. But we have a whole steering committee. Again, that's led by RTI and our partner, Aya Kalia. They're partners with us on Crytek and Elevate Blue. And they've been a great partner to 30 by 30. Josh came forward really early on and has been recruiting many of the universities. So we, are excited about starting that particular project. And then Michigan State University put us in as a partner for one of their research projects so that we can look at the promotional process for women. So those are our research projects that have federal funding attached, but we also partnered with Charleston. Everybody knows Terry Cherry and the Citadel to do some work around specialized units. And we launched that at our conference last year. So certainly share those results when they are done. And we always offer the platform for folks that are getting their degrees, whether they're master's degrees or PhDs, in order to help them with their question development and then socialize their studies that they're doing to other women in the field so that they could participate. COPS office, I always have to give a plug to them because they were our first federal agency to step forward and invest in women in policing through NAWLEE. And they have allowed us to develop research on the associations, building a database. It allowed us to have a look at all the different conferences that are going on so that we could try to partner with those other conferences. I think we did Birmingham, we did Tennessee, we did Kentucky, we do Illinois, we did the NASPAC, which is New England States Police, New Jersey, the AZ WIN, the Cal Chiefs Willie. So that really has gotten us the ability to work on that level, host webinars, participating in the meetings and trainings, and helps to support our executive training track at the conference. Two of our major programs that are up and running, the NAWLEE mentoring program. I know many of you on the call have participated in person and virtually. We are very proud of our partnership with Motorola, not just on the mentoring program, but their support of women in law enforcement from across the country. So we have a 1.5 hour briefer class. We now have a 3-hour online. We have an 8-hour in-person. And we hope the next phase is to do some very specific training for the mentors. We will be rolling out a partnership that we have with PERF for professional development under our mentoring program. We'll be doing that post our conference. And, if there's interest in the mentoring program, let us know. We'll be doing more outreach as additional ground come forward, but we're here to help you. Shannon, when we talk later, we're going to talk about some different strategies around the mentoring program because they all don't look the same, but we'll give you some information. And we are just in the final stages of our contracting with IIR for under the BJA Valor program on safety and wellness and developing some specific things for women in the field. These are just some pictures of some of the things that we're doing. What's different about one of these pictures, you'll see in the bottom center, officers were actually in a cemetery and on Women Released last September 12th. We were invited down to Houston to celebrate the first female detective of Houston PD. And so while, we forget sometimes about these stories, we were pleased to be invited and help support that. And we're starting now to get more invitations. It's really for us for a way to capture some of the trailblazing stories that we didn't know of. There's so many that we see, captured and memorialized, but Eva Jane Becker was the first one in Houston. In the center, you'll see Shannon. That is Shannon in the center. She'll tell you a little story about that. But it's the first time that NAWLEE ever had the honor of being part of the law enforcement memorial. And then just some of the, the fun events and the things that we're doing and bringing people together. And it's really about the collaboration. So this is a few shots from last year. Are going to Houston in April. We have a packed agenda and we are already over the number of total registrants from last year at this point, and we've still got a little bit of time to go. So we expect to completely sell out of this larger venue. So please, if you're considering joining us, be sure to reserve your spot. All the younger folks than me know how to quickly grab the QR code. I'll try to be creative at the end and put it in the chat, but there's some of the information. The cost is $575 for members and $675 for non-members. You get breakfast, lunch, banquet, reception, and the exhibits. So I hope you join us. So why mentoring? Business industry have been doing mentoring for a really long time. We really want to highlight this program with the short amount of time that we have with you today, because what we've found is that, our field generally lacks a mentoring program, a formal mentoring program. The mentoring goes back to Greek days and started to get adapted by businesses in the 80s. And we're really just seeing it come to our own. But here's some of the things that business found. So productivity, what does that mean in the world of policing? The ability for us to think about that in terms of customer service and greater morale. I think we can translate some of these lessons. In business, 25% of those had a salary grade change compared to only 5%. And mentors were promoted 6 more times than those not in the program. So that hopefully connects to the ability of women to promote. Mentees then promoted 5 more times. And the retention rate, so important in our field today, higher for the mentees and the mentors than over those that are not participating in a program. So while we talk about the different programs that are out there, so a formal program where there's goals set and there's a formal process for matching, there's a formal intake, schedules are set, is one way to do it. And then informal, where maybe it's one meeting or folks are just connecting as they need. And then the internal is one where an agency supports themselves. We are finding that there's less appetite for a full internal program unless it's a very large organization. And then an external program, which is what we run at NAWLEE, where we match people from across the country together. And then a hybrid where we're starting to see some agencies that they want part of it internal, maybe for specialized positions, but then when it comes to leadership and self-career development, they're more focused on an external program. And we're there to help just give you all the examples and then help you design the program that really works best for you. There's a few definitions that are swirling out there The mentor mentee, the mentor is the one that comes with the knowledge, the skills, the experiences, and the mentee is the one wanting to learn. It's really a reciprocal relationship. Coaching can sometimes get confused with mentoring. The coach process is skills. It's focused on the specifics of the job performance and not necessarily that person's own professional or career development. A sponsor is somebody that continues to develop the mentoring relationship. They get close enough where maybe they're introducing people into different circles, sort of an advocate role. And then the advisor is something that is germane to everybody. So it might be a larger group, and they're giving information that anyone in the group can gain from, not just someone with very specific mentoring goals. And then peer support is when it is a program that is more based on a critical incident happening versus something that is set out as someone requiring certain skills to be enhanced in order for them to, get their own self-actualization. So they're just different programs. It doesn't mean that one is right or wrong. It just means that they're different. So the styles of mentoring, there's agencies now that are doing pre-academy mentoring. As soon as somebody applies, you start giving them touch points along the way so that they can learn more about your process, your job, have someone that they can connect to. And academy-based, which Shannon will delve into much more. Post-academy, a lot of people think that that is the FTO program, and we really advocate that the FTO is on policies and practices, and a mentor is actually somebody that they can talk to about their own development and not someone making sure that they get through the processes. And so mentoring and friendships should come after the FTO part, and then self-directed and advanced career. And that is much of what we see for the mentoring piece is that people are mid-career. They're having decisions about where they want to go, or they just want to grow in a way that's not within their organization, that their training doesn't afford them the opportunity to explore some of the areas that they want to, or to really learn from someone that has a wealth of experience. So those are the overall pieces of the mentoring program. I am going to stop sharing and just give Shannon the floor so that she can talk to you about her programs, her experiences, and her picture.
Oh, my picture, yes. This is so much more effective when I'm in person, because I know on the screen you can't tell this, but I'm short, like I'm really short. Like I lie and I say I'm 5'2", but I'm actually more like 5'1". So little story about me being on the podium at the National Candlelight Vigil, which to me still to this day is the absolute like pinnacle of my career, right? I'm the NAWLEE president. I get invited to first time for NAWLEE to read these names. So I spend weeks and weeks memorizing the names, making sure everything is perfect. I've got family members there. I don't want to mispronounce a name, skip a name, anything like that. So also I didn't want to trip when I got up and walked to the stage. So that's also important too. So I get all ready. I get up there. I say the names. I think I've done everything great. I killed it. Feeling really good about myself. And I thought, okay, really, really great. I go back, I sit down, very nice gentleman, New Jersey Chiefs Association sitting next to me, says you did a great job. I was like, thanks, Chief. And then I looked at my phone and I got a message and it said, oh, it looked like a little hat on a podium, read names. And I was like, okay. So I tell that story because one, I think it's funny, but two, I always tell people to, when you hire on my new people, always stay humble, always remember where you came from, and keep those people in your life that keep you humble, right? Your friends that you had prior to law enforcement that think you look like a little hat reading names. And I was like, that's exactly what it was. And I'm so proud of that. So thanks, Kim, for letting me share that picture. She likes that one. I do too. Again, absolute pinnacle to my, I think to my career. So super proud of that. Super proud of NAWLEE and everything that we've done. Kim is very, very humble. She has taken our organization in the time that she has been the executive director and done amazing things. We always talk about as women sitting at tables. Ladies, we sit at the tables. So NAWLEE is at those tables. We are decision making. We are in the places that we need to be. But I'll take it back to mentoring. The reason I'm so passionate about it, I told you I never had a mentor, but that's kind of when I got to the point in my career where I was a chief, deputy chief, I want to give back. So that was my first into NAWLEE. I took over the mentoring chairperson position. And we have a saying in NAWLEE, you have to see it to be it. I think that's important. I think we still forget and we don't realize that there's so many agencies out there, so many women out there that don't have mentors, that look around and don't see anybody with a rank, with stars, with certain things on their collar that they can actually picture themselves doing that same thing. So we're incredibly passionate about mentoring and teaching this program across the country. So for in my agency in Noblesville, prior to the chief's position that I just accepted, I had an academy-based mentoring program. So Kim touched on a couple different styles. So I'll tell you a little bit about mine and why it was so successful. We talk about recruitment, retention, and keeping those women in our agencies and getting them to the higher level positions within your agency. If you don't have a successful mentor program, whether it's internal, external, it's hard to keep them there to begin with, but then it's hard to get them through the ranks. So I noticed within a period of about 4 months to the first year, I lost about 6 or 7 officers, either prior to hiring, in the initial hiring process, in my FTO program, and then right out of the academy. So I went back, and it was about a year later, and I took one of my sergeants from professional standards, the division I was in, and I said, let's go find out why we lost them. And about half of them were women. And I found in those interviews where people were very honest with me that I think some of the issues that they had is they didn't feel supported and they didn't have anybody to ask questions to. My female officers, even some things that you don't think about, and I know we touched on this before, what do you do with your gun belt when you're in the restroom? You know, things like that, just the small things. And I thought, I can't believe this is something that, because I think we tend to forget, right? You know, 20 years into your career, 25 years into your career, you don't think of those things, but they're so important, and they're important to making people feel comfortable and supported. So we instituted an academy-based one. They come out, they join the agency, they come out of the academy, and they get a mentor. And I always did my female to female mentors and male to male mentors, because I never forgot what that female said about not knowing what to do with her gun belt. And I thought, could a male officer even attempt to answer that question for her? And my answer was no. So I paired my females, males to males coming out of the academy. And we noticed after that first 2-year period where they had mentors, I lost 1 to 2 in 2 to 3 years, where I had lost about 6 in about a year. So I think it's effective. I think it helps with the retaining, recruiting, and keeping your officers there. So that's how my program looked. Kim, anything else you want me to touch on for mentoring?
We do our mentor matches in the process that you would go through when you were overseeing a national program.
Okay, you cut out just at the beginning, but I think you want to know about how I paired people. So we have in NAWLEE, we had intake forms where if you wanted to be a mentor, you filled out an intake form. If you wanted to get a mentor, you wanted to be a mentee, you filled out an intake form. So I took those forms and I did initial intake calls with my mentors and mentees, tried to figure out exactly what they were looking for. Were they looking for a female in a like agency? Were they looking for a female in a like, you know, specialty that they wanted to go into? Were they looking for promotion processes and somebody that was successful on that line? So once I got that information from my mentee, I was able to go and seek and find a mentor that had those qualities and the things that she was looking for. A lot of the times I found, and I would make phone calls to Kim and we would talk about it. There were sometimes I would take intake calls and I'd have a female, you know, maybe a captain or a deputy chief or even a lieutenant looking for a mentor because they just couldn't reach that next pinnacle. They couldn't break that ceiling that they were reaching for in their agency. And I'd listen to them talk for a long time. And at the end of it, I realized, and they would list for me, they had 6, you know, degrees. They had a master's degree, 3 master's degrees. They had just gotten their PhD. And I would get to the end of the phone call and I had to do that really hard, you know, conversation where I said, it's not you, you know? And I think that sometimes a mentor is not going to help. So there were times people called and it wasn't a mentor that they needed. It was advice. It was just somebody to talk to. So that's why we talk about in those different, mentor, coach, and advocates. Maybe they needed an advocate, but they didn't need a mentor. So I took a lot of those phone calls as well, as the chairperson, but that's how NAWLEE on a national level. And the other thing that I found surprising, at least to me, was routinely I'd ask people, do you want me to try to find somebody in your area where if you wanted to have a cup of coffee with them, you could, do you want somebody that close, or do you? And resoundingly, most of the people who called did not want anyone near their agents. They're like, nope, they can be, in Puerto Rico. I don't care. I just need, certain things that they're, whether they had been promoted or that maybe they were a SWAT officer or something like that. So that's new. And I think sometimes that's the younger generation a little bit, where they're happy doing the virtual, doing the texting, conversations and things like that. But they didn't. And then I think it's an element of I don't want anybody around me to know some of the things I might be going through. And it's a trust factor, right? So we've all experienced that. So I thought that was interesting. So when you're building programs, if you are building programs, don't worry so much about that, because all the ones that we've made and they've been extremely successful were not, they were states away, sometimes across the country, coast to coast. So.
Thanks, Shannon. So that's, it's perspective of your organization for what works for you. So you've heard a little bit about what Shannon did on a department-wide level, and then what we're doing on the national level. There's also some really great examples out there. For example, through CryTech, we were able to provide training and technical assistance to North Richland Hills. Chief Jimmy Purdue is one of major advocates of women in policing. And through that, and through the Texas Chiefs Association, they now have a women's section, and there is a mentoring program that is statewide. Chief Carrie Ellis runs that. And then NYPD has a different style of mentoring program that they're doing, and they're coming to the conference to talk about that. So we'll talk about the different styles, because it's not one size fits all. Not everything is going to work for every agency the same exact way, but we feel it's really important that if you can do something, please do. But if you need a hand, rely on us. And the CryTech resource is there for you if you're developing a program. We have done several different mentoring programs through CryTech. Even though we have the grants through Motorola, it's not going to serve everybody. And there's that opportunity to access resources as you develop your program through CryTech as well. So that's why I introduced that to you in the beginning. So I know we did sort of a very condensed version so that we could get you some information today. But we appreciate all of you, what you're doing, how you're trying to promote women in policing. And I think more importantly, the greater level of connectivity that we're all having from these experiences, whether it be getting out at workshops or attending webinars through 30 by 30. The more that we talk, the more that we share, the better that we're going to be together. So I'm excited about what the future holds. Great things are happening.